Cusco is a city in southeastern Peru near the Urubamba Valley of the Andes mountain range with a population of about 450,000. The high peak is Salcante, which is about 20,574 feet above the sea level and is about 37 miles northwest of Cusco. In the background, you can see Cusco's main stadium, Estadio Garcilaso de la Vega. This was one of the 7 stadiums used when Peru hosted South America's Continental Soccer Championship, the Copa America, in 2004. The stadium is home to one of the country's most successful soccer clubs, Cienciano. This is a lovely town set in a valley, and from this drone video, you can see the Andes peaks and the roofs of colonial architecture. To its north is the Vilcapampa mountain range with 13,000 to 20,000 feet above sea level mountains. The city has a subtropical highland climate. It is generally dry with 2 defined seasons. The dry season lasts from May to August with abundant sunshine and occasional nighttime freezes. July is the coolest month with an average of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The wet season lasts from December to March with night frost less common. November averages 56 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures usually range from 32 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Sunshine hours peak in July, the equivalent of January in the Northern Hemisphere. In contrast, February, the equivalent of August in the Northern Hemisphere, has the least amount of sunshine. Cusco was found in 2006 to be the spot on Earth with the highest average ultraviolet light levels. People here are friendly and kind. It has become a major tourist destination, hosting nearly 2 million visitors a year. Just like other tourists, I was here to see this Inca Empire and also to visit Machu Picchu. While I tell you the danger of coming here, watch Inca-style crafts that Cusco is famous for, and you can buy them here. Due to the fact that Cusco is at 11,150 feet elevation, most websites suggest travelers to go directly to Machu Picchu and then on the way back explore Cusco. By then, one's body would be adjusted to altitude and would not suffer from the altitude sickness. Or, if leaving the town is not possible, one should rest completely. Either way, one should chew on coca leaves, but please take it easy on those leaves. Also, please understand that cocaine is derived chemically from these leaves, but the leaves do not have much cocaine in it. I ignored both advices because I did not have enough time. However, I chewed on too much coca leaves and drank too much coca leaf tea. I thought I would be fine. Big mistake. On my first day, at midnight, I could not breathe. Each hotel here has big oxygen tanks. The hotel staff put me on oxygen, but even after 1 hour, that did not help. An ambulance carried me to a very modern hospital. Ironically, they did not have any room in CCU and placed me on their hospice floor. My oxygen level was only 75, which could be fatal if not treated. Even after 20 hours, the hospital wouldn't discharge me. I signed a waiver and left the hospital under my free will. For the next 5 days, I would use disposable oxygen tanks all day and still did not feel 100% healthy. Please do not make the same mistake that I did. Also, too many coca leaves will take your heart rate off the roof. Don't do it. Cusco was long an important center of indigenous people. The Quilque people occupied the region from the year 1900 to 1200. In the beginning of the 12th century, they built a fortress outside Cusco. The Incas later expanded and occupied the complex in the 13th century. Cusco was the capital of Inca Empire from 13th century until 1532. Many believe that the city was planned as an effigy in the shape of a puma, a sacred animal. Under the Inca, the city had two sectors, the Uren and Hanan. Each was divided to encompass two of the four provinces, Chinchasuyu, northwest, Antisuyu, northeast, Kutisuyu, southwest, and Kulasuyu, southeast. A road led from each of the quarter to the corresponding quarter of the empire. Each local leader was required to build a house in the city and live part of the year in Cusco, restricted to the quarter that corresponded to the quarter in which he held territory. After the rule of Pachacuti, when an Inca died, his title went to one son, and his property was given to a corporation controlled by his other relatives, and they would split inheritance. Each title holder had to build a new house and add new lands to the empire in order to own land for his family to keep after his death. According to Inca legend, the city was rebuilt by Sapa Inca Pachacuti, the man who transformed the kingdom of Cusco from a sleepy city-state into the vast empire of Tawantinsuyu. Archaeological evidence, however, points to a slower, more organic growth of the city beginning after Pachacuti. The city was constructed according to a definite plan in which two rivers were channeled around the city. Archaeologists have suggested that this city plan was replicated at other sites. The city fell to the sphere of Huascar during the Inca Civil War after the death of Huayna Capac in 1527. It was captured by the journals of Atahualpa in April 1532 in the Battle of Quipaipan. 19 months later, Spanish explorers invaded the city and gained control because of their arms and horses, implying superior military technology. Cusco stands on the layers of cultures within the old Inca Empire, Tawantinsuyu, built on Kilki structures from the 13th until the 16th century, when the Spanish replacing indigenous temples with Catholic churches and palaces with mansions. The indigenous Kilki culture built the wall complex of Sacsayhuaman in about year 1100. Sacsayhuaman was expanded by the Inca in year 2008. Archaeologists discovered the ruins of an ancient temple, roadway, and aqueduct system at Sacsayhuaman. The temple covers some 2,700 square feet and contains 11 rooms thought to have held idols and mummies, establishing its religious purpose. Together with the results of excavation in 2007, when another temple was found at the edge of the fortress, indicates a long-time religious as well as military use of the facility. Most Kilki settlements are located on the upper part of the hill slope, unlike the Incas' population centers located at the bottom. Kilki has neither the Incas' geometry nor its good finish. Instead, it was much more rustic. Its constructions are usually oval and semicircular, not octagonal, as the Incas, and are usually inaccessible. Usually in some excavations where we find Inca remains, we can also find Kilki culture's remains under them, such as ceramics. How Cusco was specifically built and how its large stones were quarried and transported to the site remain undetermined. The Spanish explorer Pizarro sacked much of the Inca city in 1535. Remains of the palace of the Incas, Qurikancha, or the Temple of the Sun, and the Temple of the Virgins of the Sun still stand. Inca buildings and foundations, in some cases provided to be stronger than the foundations built in present-day Peru. Among the most noteworthy Spanish colonial buildings of the city is the Cathedral of Santo Domingo. This neighborhood houses artisans, workshops, and craft shops. It is one of the most picturesque sights in the city. Its streets are steep and narrow, with old houses built by the Spanish over important Inca foundations. It has an attractive square and the oldest parish church in Cusco, built in 1563, which has a carved wooden pulpit, considered the epitome of colonial era woodwork in Cusco. The Inca name of this neighborhood is Tucucachi, which means the opening of the salt. This street is known as Hatun Rumiyok, which means the one with the big stone. It is the most visited by tourists. On the street there once was the palace of Inca Roca, which was converted to the archbishop's residence. Plaza De Armas, that means the square of the warrior, is from the Inca era. This plaza has been the scene of several important events, such as the proclamation by Francisco Pizarro in the conquest of Cusco. Also, the Plaza de Armas was the scene of the death of Tupac Amaru II, considered the indigenous leader of the resistance. The Spanish built a stone arcade around the plaza, which endure to this day. The main cathedral and the church of La Campania both open directly onto the plaza. Along this street that runs from the Plaza de Armas to the Barrio de San Blas, one can see the stone of 12 angels, which is viewed as marvel of ancient stonework and has become emblematic of the city's history. This church is known as Iglesias de la Compañía de Jesus, which means Church of the Society of Jesus. The church's construction was initiated by the Jesuits in 1576 on the foundations of Qurikancha, or the palace of the Inca ruler Huayna Capac. This is Qurikancha, which means Golden Palace. At the time of the Inca Empire, it was the most important sanctuary dedicated to the sun god Inti. Qurikancha was said to have feathered a large solid golden disc that was studded with precious stones and represented the Inca sun god. The sacred garden in front of the temple used to be a garden of golden plants with leaves of beaten gold, stems of silver, solid gold corn cobs, and 20 life-size llamas and their herders, all in solid gold. The temple was destroyed by its Spanish invaders, who plundered and got the city rid of its wealth and shrines. Nowadays, only a curved outer wall and partial ruins of the inner temple remain at the site. With this structure as a foundation, colonists built the Convent of Santo Domingo in the Renaissance style. The building, with one tower, exceeds the height of many other buildings in this city. A major earthquake on 21st May 1950 caused the destruction of more than one-third of the city's structures. Many of the buildings damaged in 1950 had been impacted by an earthquake only 9 years previously. The Church of Santo Domingo, which was built on the top of the impressive Qurikancha, or the Temple of Sun, were among the affected colonial era buildings. Inca architecture withstood the earthquake. Many of the old Inca walls were at first thought to have been lost after the earthquake, but the granite remaining walls of the Qurikancha were exposed, as well as those of the ancient structures throughout the city. Restoration work at the Santo Domingo complex exposed the Inca formerly obscured by the superstructure without compromising the integrity of the colonial heritage. Maras is a town 25 miles north of Cusco. The town is well known for its salt evaporation ponds, which have been in use since Inca times. The ponds are 2.5 miles north of the town, down a canyon that descends to Rio Vilcanota and the sacred valley of the Incas. Since pre-Inca times, salt has been obtained in Maras by evaporating salty water from a local subterranean stream. The highly salty water emerges at a spring, a natural outlet of the underground stream. The flow is directed into an intricate system of tiny channels constructed so that the water runs gradually down onto the several hundred ancient terraced ponds. Almost all the ponds are less than 140 square feet in area and none exceeds 1 feet in depth. All are necessarily shaped into polygons with the flow of water carefully controlled and monitored by the workers. The altitude of the ponds slowly decreases so that the water may flow through the myriad branches of the water supply channels and be introduced slowly through a notch in one side wall of each pond. The proper maintenance of the adjacent feeder channel, the side walls and the water entry notch, the pond's bottom surface, the quality of water and the removal of accumulated salt deposits requires close cooperation among the community of users. It is agreed among local residents and pond workers that the cooperative system was established during the time of the Incas, if not earlier. As water evaporates from the sun-warmed ponds, the water becomes supersaturated and salt precipitates as various sized crystals on the inner surfaces of a pond's walls and on the pond's floor. The pond's keeper then closes the water feeder notch and allows the pond to go dry. Within a few days, the keeper carefully scrapes the dry salt from the sides and bottom, puts it into suitable vessel, reopens the water supply notch, and carries away the salt. Color of the salt varies from white to a light reddish or brownish tan depending on the skill of an individual worker. Some salt is sold at a gift shop nearby. Moray is an archaeological site in Peru, approximately 31 miles northwest of Cusco, at about 11,500 feet elevation and just west of the village of Maras. The site contains usual Inca agricultural experiment station ruins, mostly consisting of several terraced circular depressions, the largest of which is approximately 98 feet deep. The purpose of these depressions is uncertain, but their depth, design, and orientation with respect to wind and sun creates a temperature difference of as much as 27 degrees Fahrenheit between the top and the bottom. It's possible that this large temperature difference was used by the Inca to study the effects of different climate conditions on crops. In and around this area, anywhere I went to, I saw llamas and alpacas roaming around. Their wood is sheared and used by Incas to make textile. High in the Andes, where temperatures often dip below freezing and the winds whip the high plains, the insulation provided by woven textile is crucial. Dating back to pre-Inca times, Andes weavers obtained their fiber by wool sheared from the alpaca. Andean weavers obtained their fiber the same way. Wool sheared from the alpaca is hypoallergenic, water-resistant, highly breathable, washable, non-flammable, and resists shrinkage. The process of hand spinning the wool into yarn is a skill that Andean women began practicing as children. Ollantaytambo is a town some 45 miles northwest of the city of Cusco. Its altitude is 9,160 feet above sea level. During the Inca Empire, Ollantaytambo was the royal estate of Emperor Pachacuti, who conquered the region, built the town and a ceremonial center. At the time of Spanish conquest of Peru, it served as a stronghold for Manco Inca Yupanqui, leader of the Inca resistance. This is Aracama, a steep hill on which the Incas built a ceremonial center. The part of the hill facing the town is occupied by the terraces of fumatales framed on both flanks by rock outcrops. Due to impressive character of these terraces, the temple hill is commonly known as the fortress. However, the main function of this site was religious. This is the bath of the princess, a fountain at the base of the ruins. The main access to the ceremonial center is a series of stairways that climb to the top of the terrace complex. At this point, the site is divided into three main areas: the middle sector directly in front of the terraces, the temple sector to the south, and the funerary sector to the north. It is accessed via a stairway that ends on a terrace with a half-finished gate and the enclosure of the 10 niches, a one-room building. The main structure of the whole sector is the Sun Temple, an uncompleted building which features the wall of the 6 monoliths. The middle and funerary sectors have several rectangular buildings, some of them with 2 floors. There are also several fountains in the middle sector. The unfinished structures at the temple hill and the numerous stone blocks that litter the site indicate that it was still undergoing construction at the time of its abandonment. Some of the blocks show evidences of having been removed from finished walls, which provides evidence that a major remodeling effort was also underway. It is unknown which event halted construction at the temple hill. The valleys are covered by an extensive set of agricultural terraces which start at the bottom of the valleys and climb up the surrounding hills. The Andes permitted farming on otherwise unusable terrain. They also allowed the Incas to take advantage of the different ecological zones created by variation in altitude. Terraces at Ollantaytambo was built to a higher standard than common Inca agricultural terraces. At the southern end, there is an Inca site called Qurikancha. Its interconnected buildings and the plazas form an unusual design, quite unlike the single-room structures common in Inca architecture. As the site is isolated from the rest of Ollantaytambo and surrounded by an elaborate terraces, it has been postulated that it was a palace built for Emperor Pachacuti. These are Pinkwe Luna or Inca storehouses. The Incas built several storehouses out of field stones on the hills surrounding Ollantaytambo. Their location at high altitudes, where there is more wind and lower temperatures, defended their contents against decay. To enhance this effort, the Ollantaytambo kulkas feature ventilation systems. It is believed that they are used to store the production of the agricultural terraces built around the site. Grain would be poured into the windows on the uphill side of each building, then emptied out through the downhill side window. Direct access to Machu Picchu is not possible by road. The only way to get there is by train. I had already bought the travel package from Cusco. A van picked me up and took me to Ollantaytambo train station, a journey which took about 2 hours. Ollantaytambo station, also called Ollanta, is a popular station due to the fact that it's the last village in the Sacred Valley and hence a good option to continue after your Sacred Valley excursion to Machu Picchu. Here, I, along with hundreds of other travelers, got boarded in Peru rail that took me to Aguas Calientes. This is a modern train with 4 seats socially located in front of each other. The carriage has large panoramic windows and even windows in the roof of the train to fully appreciate the countryside as it rolls on by. All wagons have air conditioning and heating. Snacks and beverages are available during the entire trip. Luggage can be stored in the racks placed above the seats. This journey is renowned for its stunning scenery, as the track snakes its way through the Andean countryside to the very base of Machu Picchu mountain. In 1999, Peru Rail started operating the first touristic train service, granting easy access to the most famous and most visited site in Peru. In my opinion, if you want everything as planned, booking each and every leg of the journey on your own can prove to be a complete and unwanted hassle to the planning stage of your trip. The easiest way to avoid this headache is to purchase each and every stop as a package tour. However, if you are a type of person that plans on the go, or as a person like me, you will also find an endless amount of street agencies selling tour packages in Cusco. With these agencies, you can also opt for a Peru rail ticket. If you want to book the rail ticket online, try to book several days in advance if possible, especially in the high season. It's not possible to select your own seats online. So if you have a preference, buy them at the station. The difficult geography makes Machu Picchu almost inaccessible. Maybe that's the main attraction for many tourists who visit Peru's cultural heritage and the world. That's the reason some folks take the ancient Inca Trail, lasting 4 days of travel. This route is recommended only for those who like to test their physical endurance. I'm not definitely one of them. The train ride to Aguas Calientes is a very beautiful one. I would definitely recommend to have done the ride at least one way during daytime. The train ride took another 2 hours and finally I arrived in Aguas Calientes. Here, the tour operator was waiting for me at the train station. She took me to my hotel. It was very cold and the hotel room did not have any form of heating. However, they had provided heavy blankets. The view from my room window was amazing. It had a balcony where I could sit and view Qurikancha river rushing waters. Aguas Calientes, which means hot water in Spanish, is nowadays most often referred to as Machu Picchu Pueblo or Machu Picchu Town. These thermal pools were uphill, just on a 5 minutes walk from my hotel. It cost 10 soles or $3 to enter. This place had changing facilities, showers, luggage storage, and a small cafe selling snacks and drinks. About 400 known thermal sources exist in Peru, but only some are open to tourism. Such abundance of thermal waters is caused by an ongoing volcanic geological phenomenon that pushes the Nazca Plate under the South American Plate. Thermal flows filtering through these geological faults warm up the ground, and superficial water filtration that rise to the surface at various temperatures. Here in Aguas Calientes, such hot sulfurous waters of 100 degree Fahrenheit to 115 degree Fahrenheit emerge from the rocky subsoil. The pools in this place provide a basic infrastructure for using the hot waters. It's an open-air facility with the amazing Andes as backdrop. The pools appear quite dirty, but this is actually an effect of the sulfurous water. Bring your tongs, bathers, and a towel, or you can rent them here. There are several pools of varying size and temperatures, including one filled with ice-cold mountain water, so check first before jumping in. The hot springs facility isn't fancy, but it doesn't have to be in order to soothe your muscles. These hot springs offer natural resources for medical therapy and also is a good treatment for rheumatism. It helps to rid of stress and toxins, enhance your metabolism, and avoid high blood pressure. From the pool, you can see the mountains surrounding the little valley. It's quite beautiful from here. The floors of the pools are filled with pebbles, which I think are to prevent people from slipping on the smooth tiles, or it could be there for a natural foot massage. Here, you will also get to meet fellow travelers from all around the world and get to chat a lot. The springs have been recently refurbished and are a good place to relax, especially after completing the Inca Trail. By far, the most popular in-town activity, that's probably because it's also the only in-town activity. Either way, I would highly recommend a soak in these hot springs. After relaxing a little bit in my room, I got out. It was time for a dinner. There are a large range of restaurants catering for most tastes. The average restaurant is probably considerably more expensive than Cusco due to the proximity to Machu Picchu. But there is a fun village-style atmosphere and it's a good place to hang out. Pizzerias are numerous as well. The funny thing is that most of the restaurants in Aguas Calientes are carbon copies of each other, each offering the same generic tourist menu. Touts are plenty that would try anything to get you in their restaurants. I found one restaurant interesting and got in. The food was great and so was their live music that helped me relax a lot. Next day, after coming back from Machu Picchu trip, it was time to explore this tiny town. Since drones are not allowed in the ruins of Machu Picchu, it was time to give my drone a chance. No one really wants to go to Aguas Calientes. It's not a destination in its own right, but that's not to say that it's not a special place. I think it is. There are few places in the world teeming with as much excitement and anticipation as does Aguas Calientes. Everyone is there for one reason, and one reason only, to finally visit the legendary site of Machu Picchu. Myself included, it was a special moment. The origins of the town Aguas Calientes back to the early 20th century, when they started the construction work of the railway line linking Cusco with the town of Santa Ana in 1901. A group of workers employed in construction of the railway decided to stay in a small plain located between the steep mountains covered with jungle vegetation. On the back of the global interest after Machu Picchu's discovery, this town is sprung to life as a modern mix of hotels and restaurants to cater to the daily influx of tourists drawn to the site. Many travelers opt to spend the night here as part of a 2-day, 1-night trip, taking the early morning bus up the mountain to enjoy a full day unrushed at the extensive rooms. Today, more than 1,500 tourists arrive by train every day, and the village exists solely for tourism. Quiet streams turned into plazas, and seemingly every square inch of hillside transformed into a shop or a restaurant. It's because of these odd-grown sprouts, I think, that I found it so very strange but intriguing at the same time. There are basically only two main streets in Aguas Calientes: Avenida Imperio de los Incas, the street with the old train tracks running through, and Avenida Pachacutec, which extends from the plaza to the thermal springs. You will find most of the town's hotels and restaurants on these streets. Its climate is temperate and humid for being in the high forest, and its average temperature is 60 degrees Fahrenheit. This town's elevation is 6,700 feet with a population of only 3,000. Here, this train track market is a peculiar place, which is held when the trains aren't operating. Then, when the train arrives, the merchants gather everything and walk away, leaving the rail tracks clear for the train. So funny. However, near and up to the entrance of the train station, there is a permanent market as well. In these markets, you can buy all kinds of souvenirs and gifts, but because everything has to be shipped in, prices for everything in Aguas Calientes will be highest you'll find anywhere during your trip around Peru, in some cases double. Haggle ruthlessly. The same goes for items in shops and conveniences stores, from bottles of water to snacks. It rains a lot in Agua Caliente, and this morning was no different. I arrived at a pre-designated place at 6 a.m. and there were almost 100 people waiting for their guides. Once I met my guide, he had about 10 people in his group. He had us follow him and took us to a bus. The bus rode uphill and we arrived at the Machu Picchu gate in about 20 minutes. We were assigned guides based on the languages we spoke, and then we had to get in a line. The line moved fast and we were at the ticket checkpoint within 15 minutes. Once through the gate, I got my first glimpse of Machu Picchu. What a sight, and so many people. I started to climb over 100 flights of stairs. The vast majority of the steps were carved from a single stone slab. The stairs were uneven in height and width, and some parts also get pretty narrow. It was very hard to take these stairs in this pouring rain. Once I was on the top, what an amazing sight that it was. Our guide assured us that the rain will stop soon. I did not believe him, but suddenly the clouds started clearing and it was sunny as if no rain ever happened. Machu Picchu is 7,972 feet up on a mountain ridge. It was constructed by the Incas, which dominated western South America in the 15th and 16th centuries. In the midst of this tropical mountain forest, on the eastern slopes of Peruvian Andes, Machu Picchu's walls, terraces, stairways, and ramps blend seamlessly into its natural setting. The site's finely crafted stonework, terraces, field, and sophisticated irrigation system bear witness to the Inca civilization's architectural, agricultural, and engineering marvel. Its central buildings are prime examples of a masonry technique mastered by the Incas, in which stones were cut to fit together without mortar. Buildings were often constructed from stones weighing more than 50 pounds, which would have been pushed up the mountains by a group of men. Wheels were unknown to the Incas. To this day, it's impossible to put a knife between some of the stones comprising the buildings. This type of craftsmanship would have been the best in the world at that time. Machu Picchu is made up of more than 150 buildings, ranging from baths and houses to temples and sanctuaries. Machu Picchu either served as a royal estate for Inca emperors and nobles, or it was a religious site. Archaeologists have identified several distinct sectors that together comprise the city, including a farming zone, a residential neighborhood, a royal district, and a sacred area. Its strategic location was chosen with admirable success. Surrounded by steep cliffs and away from the sight of strangers in a tangled forest, the Citadel of Machu Picchu had the quality of having only one narrow entrance, allowing, in case of a surprise attack, to be defended by very few warriors. Machu Picchu's most distinct and famous structures include the Temple of the Sun. In that place, many rituals were offered to calm and maintain happy one of the most important deities of the Tahuantinsuyu, the sun, their father, their creator. It's not coincidence that Machu Picchu was built over high altitude. The reason is that they felt closer to the sky and closer to their sun god. Temple of the Sun is roughly divided into an urban sector and an agriculture sector and into an upper town and a lower town. The temples are in the upper town, the warehouse in the lower. The architecture is adapted to the mountains. Approximately 200 buildings are arranged on wide parallel terraces around an east-west central square. Stone stairways set in the wall allowed access to the different levels across the site. The eastern section of the city was probably residential. The western, separated by the square, was for religious and ceremonial purposes. This section contains the Torian, the massive tower which may have been used as an observatory. Located in the first zone are the primary archaeological treasures, the Intihuatana, the Temple of the Sun, and the ruins of the three windows. These were dedicated to Inti, their sun god and greatest deity. The popular district or residential district is the place where the lower class people lived. It included storage buildings and simple houses. The royalty area, a sector for nobility, is a group of houses located in rows over a slope. The residence of the Amautas, meaning wise persons, was characterized by its reddish walls, and the zone of the Nustas, meaning princesses, had trapezoid-shaped rooms. The Monumental Mausoleum is a carved statue with a vaulted interior and carved drawings. It was used for rites or sacrifices. The guardhouse, a three-sided building with one of its long sides opening onto the terrace of the ceremonial rock. Machu Picchu's another distinct structure is the Intihuatana stone, a sculpted granite rock that is believed to have functions as a solar clock or calendar. This stone is believed to have been designed as an astronomical clock or calendar by the Incas. The sculpture carved from the rock bottom of the Sun Temple is interpreted as water mirror for observing the sky. These stones are arranged to point directly at the sun during the winter solstice. The Inca believed the stone held the sun in its place along its annual path in the sky. Midday on 11th November and 30th January, the sun stands almost exactly above the pillar, casting no shadow. On 21st June, the stone casts the longest shadow on its southern side, and on 21st December, a much shorter shadow on its northern side. The Intihuatana stone is one of many ritual stones in South America. Legend tells that when a sensitive person touches their forehead to the Intihuatana stone, it opens up their vision to a spirit world. Intihuatana stones were the greatest sacred object of the Inca people and were systematically searched for and destroyed by the Spaniards. When the Intihuatana stone was broken at an Inca shrine, the Inca believed that the deities of the place died or departed. The Spanish people never found Machu Picchu, even though they suspected its existence. Thus the Intihuatana stone and its resident spirits remain in their original position. These caves' entrances, walls, steps, and windows are some of the finest masonry in the Inca Empire. The cave also includes a tunnel-like window unique among Incan structures, which was constructed to only allow sunlight into the cave during several days around the December solstice. For this reason, the cave was inaccessible for much of the year. Sophisticated channeling system provided irrigation for the fields. Heavy rainfall required terraces and stone chips to drain rainwater and prevent mudslides, landslides, erosion, and flooding. Terraces were layered with stone chips, sand, dirt, and topsoil to absorb water and prevent it from running down the mountain. Similar layering protected the lost city center from flooding. Multiple canals and reserves provide water throughout the city that could be supplied to the terraces for irrigation and to prevent erosion and flooding. While wandering around in Machu Picchu, you'll see many llamas grazing on the lush green grass. If you get close to them and get them angry, they spit on you. It's not really a spit, but undigested food from their stomach that stinks really bad. Machu Picchu lies atop two major fault lines and has so seen more than its fair share of earthquakes. Its buildings have withstood earthquakes better than the modern cities of Cusco and Lima. The section of the mountain where Machu Picchu was built provided various challenges that the Inca solved with local material. One issue was the seismic activity due to these fault lines. It made mortar and similar building methods nearly useless. Instead, the Inca mined stones from the quarry at the site, lined them up, and shaped them to fit together perfectly, stabilizing the structures. Inca walls have many stabilizing features. Doors and windows are trapezoidal, narrowing from bottom to top. Corners usually are rounded. Inside corner often inclined slightly into the rooms, and outside corners were often tied together by L-shaped blocks. Walls are offset slightly from row to row rather than rising straight from bottom to top. It was abandoned an estimated 100 years after its construction, probably around the time of Spanish began their conquest of the mighty pre-Columbian civilization in the 1530s. Although it was located only about 50 miles from the Inca capital in Cusco, the Spanish never found Machu Picchu and so did not plunder or destroy it, as they did many other sites. Some have suggested that the residents' desertion occurred because of a smallpox epidemic. Over the centuries, the surrounding jungle overgrew the site, and few outside the immediate area knew of its existence. In the summer of 1911, the American archaeologist Hiram Bingham arrived in Peru with a small team of explorers. While around Cusco, a local farmer told them of some ruins located at the top of a nearby mountain. The farmer called the mountain Machu Picchu, which translates to Oak Peak in the native language. On July 24th, after a tough climb to the mountain's ridge, Bingham got his first glimpse of the intricate network of stone terraces marking the entrance to Machu Picchu. Before the discovery of Machu Picchu, there were 3 families living there, and famed ruins were encrusted with vegetation. Apart from the sections the inhabitants used as vegetable gardens, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1983. It was also designated one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Several movies have been filmed on this location, including Secret of the Incas, The Wrath of God, The Motorcycle Diaries, Ghosts of Machu Picchu, and the film series Trade Routes. Heavy tourism and locals not taking conservation measures started getting this area to have irreversible damage. Starting July 2011, Peruvian government introduced new entrance rules to the Citadel of Machu Picchu. The tougher entrance rules attempted to reduce the human impact of tourism. Entrants were limited to 2,500 visitors per day. Nowadays, hundreds of thousands of people visit Machu Picchu every year and marvel at the mysterious splendor of one of the world's most famous man-made wonders. Some people take the Inca Trail and hike to Machu Picchu. It is by far the most famous trek in South America. The Inca Trail altitude varies quite significantly, and people often struggle with altitude sickness. Cusco stands at 10,500 feet and is already significantly higher than Machu Picchu. However, many sections of the Inca Trail are much higher. Starting at 8,530 feet, the trail ascends to 10,800 feet and is already significantly higher than Machu Picchu itself. However, many sections of the Inca Trail are much higher. Starting at 8,530 feet, the trail ascends to 10,825 feet. Then it ascends over Dead Woman's Pass, the highest point on the Inca Trail, at 13,780 feet. This is the most dangerous point in terms of altitude sickness. The trail only descends from this point until you reach Machu Picchu at 7,800 feet. Because of its popularity, the Peruvian government instituted several controls to reduce human impact upon the trail and within the ancient city. As of 2016, 500 permits are issued for each day. All of the year's permits are released in January and are sold on a first-come, first-served basis. Permits sell out quickly, particularly those for the higher season. Most operators advise hikers to purchase permits at least 6 months in advance. The government also mandated that every trekker on the trail must be accompanied by a guide. Because of this rule, permits can only be obtained through a government-registered tour operator. All permits are paired with an individual passport and are not transferable.